Hi, lovelies. Welcome back to the channel. Yes, I know we've been away for a couple of weeks. Honestly, we needed time to recuperate after building Nessie over 2.5 months and working 20 hours a day, which I'm pretty sure you'll understand. And you'll let us off just this once. But we're here, we're back, we're doing daily videos. As of today we're starting with Nessie. You guys have been asking what she's made of, what parts she has, and how much the build cost. Well, Walter's going to be joining us later to tell you that, but I'm going to take you on a little walkthrough of Nessie. Now, just before I start going down the whole path of telling you exactly what she is made of, I am going to remind you of just a couple of things. First of all, the way that we built Nessie is not the best way to build a race vehicle, but it's a road we chose to go down, and this is how we built it and how we wanted to build it, to be honest with you. But there are many, many other and much easier, non-stressful ways to build a race car. Also, most of the parts, remember, were bought 2 years ago for Nessie in Black Friday sales. Now, we're going to be absolutely transparent with you, but remember, we also don't live a normal life. We live on the road, we live in our camper, and yeah, we don't have mortgage payments, and we don't have a wee family of our own. Yes, obviously we have family members, but we don't have kids. So just remember, when you're hearing all of this today, it's just the two of us, and this is how we kind of choose to live our lives. So yeah, just a reminder there. So Nessie started life as a 2018 two-door JK with a wheelbase stock of 94 inches. Today she is a 4500 class Ultra4 race car, or race Jeep, and the wheelbase is 109 inches. So why don't we start with suspension and steering, since those were the two main difficult things that we did over the past 2.5 months. So for Nessie, we went with an off-the-shelf kit from RPM Steering, specially made for two-door JKs. Now, this consists of a triangulated 4-link in the rear and a 3-link up in the front. Now, what we managed to do with this kit is actually stretch the rear by 12 inches and the front by 3 inches, getting our target wheelbase at 109 inches. Now, not only do I like the kit, I really like the people who run the company. Dawn and Michelle are fantastic to work with, and I knew that they would be perfect to work with because we had to change just a couple of the things within their kit for a desert racing car. Now, what I'm talking about is having the 2 joints on either side be both right hand. This means that when you're going through the desert, nothing is going to unscrew, because normally they are in opposite directions. They screw on in different directions. But having them both right hand was just perfect, and they did that no problem. Also, the lower control arms are a whopping 2.5 inches in diameter. They are huge. And honestly, working with the two of them has just been incredible. Anything that we needed or wanted to change, they did. And also, Dawn traveled all the way from Arizona to here to southern Utah to come check it out and really diagnose what we needed for Nessie to work perfectly in the King of the Hammers race. And that is just customer service you can't get everywhere. And yeah, just absolutely love working with them. Now, the remaining parts of the suspension include Fox factory coilovers and bypass shocks. These are required for the 4500 class is 2.5 inch in diameter and 14 inches in length. But the way that they're positioned on Nessie, we can actually get 17 inches out of each corner. And helping keeping the suspension in good working order are the 2.0 hydraulic bump stops from Fox and PRP limiting straps. Now let's talk about steering. Now, when we originally bought parts for Nessie, she was actually going to be in a different class. So that required a little creative engineering to get everything working within this build. Now, what I find super interesting was the fact that we had to move the steering box 6 inches in front of where it originally sat, and also the track bar. The track bar is fully custom and it works just perfectly on in there. Now, we also collaborated with Dawn again from RPM Steering on this, and the result is an insane setup with 0 bump steer throughout its full range of travel, which is ideal for racing. Now, moving from the frame to inside the cab, we have another mix of components from PSC. We have the big bore XD steering box, the very same one I use in Mischief Maker, which is connected to a PSC custom length steering column and a PRP steering wheel and sweet MFG steering wheel quick disconnect. Now, I know that was a lot to start with, but those 2 things really did set Nessie apart, and I am proud of how those things turned out. Okay, let's talk drivetrain now, which I know is something that you guys are definitely going to pay attention to. Nessie started her life out with a 3.6 Pentastar motor, 5-speed automatic transmission. She maybe had, I don't know, 285 horsepower. She is now a fire-breathing 525 horsepower beast, fed by a 6.2 LS3 and a 6L80E 6-speed automatic transmission. The only modifications made to the motor is a stage 2 Texas speed cam, and the transmission now is a Circle D billet torque converter. We also ditched the stock transfer case. Even although the ratio would have worked perfectly, we went for an Atlas transfer case, 2-speed, with a ratio of 3:1. From there, the power is transferred through some custom length 188 wall 2-inch diameter drive shafts from Tom Woods Drive Shafts right here in Utah. Sean at Tom Woods spent an amazing amount of time with Walter, and they were both trying to figure out how to engineer these shafts so that we could order 3 and use the 3rd as a universal spare. And at the end of the line, we have Fusion 4x4 Dana 60 axles front and rear. They're geared at 5/38s with ARB air lockers. My favorite thing about these axles and Fusion 4x4 in general is that the customer service is amazing. The shafts that came with these axles have a lifetime warranty, and if I manage to break one, a new one is a simple phone call and a few days away. At some point, I may switch these over to Fusion 4x4 Fab 10 axles simply because they are better for race application. But we will most likely stick with the Dana 60s for another race season. Then of course, we have the KMC Desert Grenade beadlocks. Absolutely love them. And the BFG Blue Crawler tires. These are the DOT version of the crawlers that I have on Mischief Maker, and I have grown to know and love them very well. All right, now let's talk about the interior of Nessie. Now, before you guys point out, I know there is still rust in here. Not only did we take a break from making videos, but to be quite honest with you, I have not been in the garage until 2 days ago. So we have not only a lot of work to do on both vehicles, but we have a lot of work to do in the shop and get it into spick and span shape, which I've been working on the past couple of days, and it's felt amazing. So let's talk about the cage. The cage is custom and it's simple. It really has one job to do, and that is to keep myself and my co-driver safe. Now, when engineering this cage specifically, it was pretty hard because The only thing that I had in mind is that I wanted all the body panels to be able to go on quickly and then look exactly like a Jeep. I really had that image in my mind from the get-go, and that was very, very important to me, and I think we managed to pull that off. I know some of the guys really hated me at the time, but honestly, it just looks so good when all put back together. It was also a little bit tricky integrating the upper mounts for both the front and rear coilovers there, but again, I think we pulled it off. And overall, I am very, very happy with the suspension in this vehicle, given the limitations of the 4500 class. And I legitimately and literally would not change a thing. Now, there are 3 more categories to get through. I promise they're not as long as the other ones, but we have cooling, we have the fueling system, and we have the safety gear. So let me quickly run through those, and then we'll get to the money, honey. Oh. My personal safety gear is from a company called Pyrotect. My helmet, race suit, undergarments, gloves, socks, shoes, everything required except my next gen carbon head and neck device, which, by the way, shout out to Kevin and Brittany at Lightbright for that, because that was their suggestion over some amazing Thai food up in Cedar City. Other than that, they're all manufactured by Pyrotect. My Alpha race seats right here and harnesses are PRP. This is just another company that you've seen me use over the past 4 years, because I have the Enduro seats over in Mischief Maker and the harnesses also. And finally, the last safety item is the lighting. Now, all the lights on Nessie are from Rigid Industries, and that includes this E-Series Amber Pro Spot light bar. Now, if you've driven in and around Johnson Valley, you know that the dust can be absolutely horrendous, and having the correct lighting is very, very important. The entire fuel delivery system is from a company called Deutschwerks and includes a dual fuel pump system and a 1.5 gallon surge tank that pulls from a custom-made 35-gallon fuel cell from Pyrotech, which you guys have seen. And then obviously Nessie is right there. Okay, and lastly, let's talk about cooling. It is safe to say that we went absolutely overboard with the cooling system on Nessie. Nessie's coolant runs through a Ron Davis 4-pass aluminum radiator with 3 9-inch fans, and is probably more appropriate for a pre-runner than an Ultra4 car. We have 2 separate 10-inch CBR radiators mounted on either side of the fuel cell, and a derail oil cooler mounted under the cowl. Okay, so there are several other electronic items within the cabin. We have the horn, we have the radios, we have the air system back here, we have the GPS, and that is pretty much about what we did and how we built the race car. Now that we've talked about the whole bone structure and what she's made of, it's time to talk about how much everything costs. So we're gonna grab Walter, we're gonna be very transparent with you guys. Yeah. I don't even know if I want to do this part of the video, but hey, you guys have asked for it, so we're going to be transparent and do that with you guys. So let's go grab Walter, and also let's ask him like how his experience was at KOH, because I've told you my whole story, my whole background on it, but we didn't hear from Walter in the last video, so let's go grab him. All right, so we found Walter, and we're going to be talking about the cost of Nessie. Like I said before, something I don't really want to go through, but you guys asked, so heck yeah, we're doing this for you. But first of all, how did you find KOH this year? How was the race, and how was the very little time that we spent there?
It was fun. It was different. We don't often stay for the days that we were there, so it was different. It was fun. I felt very unprepared, which we don't often feel at this point. It was nice to experience something new. It was a little scary, but also there really wasn't a lot of time to kind of really sit with that feeling. So you kind of just felt it, but there was always like other priorities. I want to do it again. I can't wait to do it again. I feel like I'm really proud of how far we got. I am proud of the efforts of the team. I know she's talked about this before, but part of the reason that we stopped filming was just, it was time to just really get down to business and make sure that, you know, for the sake of the people who had sacrificed their time and energy and effort, in effort to help, that we did everything that we possibly could to get there. So it was one of those situations where, you know, I feel like it would have been fine if we didn't race, but we wanted to for them. So it was nice. It was a lot, but I mean, that's honestly why we took so much time before coming back to making videos. Like, we literally needed to recuperate from 3 months of constant pressure. 18, 20-hour days, pressures, trying to get parts. Are we gonna make it? You're never gonna make it. We are gonna make it. We made it. We're still not started. We're still not done. A lot of highs, a lot of lows, but totally worth it. For sure. So I will be writing down everything on the Nessie board. I drew a little Nessie. I'm terrible at art. So yeah, I'm just gonna go through categories of things. I overheard part of what Holly was recording earlier with you guys, where she went through, you know, drivetrain and steering and stuff. So we're gonna just break things out in that category. I think that's probably the easiest and best way to do it. Yeah. And we'll go from there. All right. So, all right. What are we starting with? First things first. The vehicle. The vehicle itself, right? So Nessie is a 2018 JK that just came off a lease when we picked it up. We had an idea we wanted to race, and at the time we were like, oh, we'll just race stock class. That will be easiest. So that would have been the 4600 class. In 4600 class, you have to keep the stock motor and transmission. So I wanted something reliable. I'm familiar with the 3.6. She's familiar with the 3.6. As far as working on it, it just made sense. It was a little bit of an expense, but it was one that, knowing that we would keep the vehicle forever, one that we were willing to make. So the vehicle itself cost $22,000. Beautiful. What a way to start. Yeah. I figured we'd get the big ones out of the way to start off, and then we'll erase this board and never think about it again. So you started with steering and suspension, so let's go through steering and suspension. Okay. So if you look at the kit that we used, custom arms, custom joints, 1-ton steering, the hydro assist, the steering column, the steering wheel, everything from the driver input forward, and everything that holds the vehicle up, you are looking at $25,200. You can't make that face now. Oh gosh. It's done, it's a thing. All right, next up, drivetrain. Oh yeah. So let's do everything from where the power's made and the motor to down to the wheels and tires. Get the motor, transmission, drive shaft, the axles, transfer case. Yep. You are looking at $32,400. She ran. Nice. You raced. It's like pulling off a Band-Aid. All right, we'll go a little bit lower. After this, it gets a lot less painful. Okay. Still painful, but less. So safety equipment. This is a big category. So in this category, I put lights, emergency kits, all the things you need for tech and contingency, window nets, which were required, her harnesses, her seats. And there are things that we chose. There are certain things that are in this category that kind of boost this number up that maybe you might not find, you know, typical. So instead of a more affordable helmet that's very heavy, puts a lot of strain on the neck, we went with a carbon fiber helmet that's very light. We went with a very light, in fact, the lightest I think you can get, Hans like head and neck device. So things like that kind of inflate the number, but that's $15,800. And you know, I put everything in here. That includes your communications gear, your GPS, location data, yep. That's not so bad. The winch, there's a lot of big ticket items in there. So let's talk about, this is where it drops down and maybe you'll feel a little bit better. Okay. So fabrication and fabrication materials. So tubing, sheet metal, bracketry, our welding consumables, the things that we spent over the last 3-month period, that was not really stuff that we had costs on when we initially bought the vehicle. So a lot of those were more recent. $8,300. And all of these are round numbers because I just rounded them up to the nearest 100, which is a safe move because I'm sure there's certainly a few things that got left off the list. Next up, fuel system. The big ticket item here is the fuel cell. That was a custom made fuel cell by Pyrotech, and the fuel delivery kit that we got from Deechworks, and that is $4,600. Another bigger item is wiring, switching, and displays. So there are a lot of switches you're required to have in that vehicle. Emergency cutoffs, ignition switch. We went with a push button start, and we have a secondary cutoff switch actually. So we have two. The one that cuts off the power to the entire vehicle. And that came in at $7,300. Radiators and cooling. So I know you guys have seen, we have this gigantic, absurd Ron Davis radiator for the engine coolant. We have a Durale engine oil cooler, and there are two CBR coolers for the transmission. We really wanted to eliminate any possibility of this vehicle getting warm because that's pretty much every nightmare story you hear in every vehicle swap ever. So, and that's not an issue here, thankfully. And that is $4,700. Brakes, that's a simple one. The axles came with rotors and pads, everything ready to assemble. When I say brakes, we needed brake lines. We ran custom brake lines throughout the vehicle. We got a Willwood pedal for the brakes and master cylinders for the front and rear, and that is $1,300. Our exhaust, which was a last minute, that was actually one of the things we were really worried about. Exhaust was one of the items we were not sure that we would get figured out before the race, and that was probably the most stressful thing for me because I couldn't find an exhaust shop out here that would do the work. But luckily, Max knew somebody in Cedar City. So Max, we put it on a trailer. Max took it up, I don't know, 45 minutes away. And in 2 hours, we had an exhaust. So ended up being something that worked out. $800. Fittings. Fittings are painful. Fittings hurt. Fittings will hurt everybody. So in addition to wiring, what you pay for AN fittings is criminal. And there are not that many on this vehicle, and that came to $1,200. This last one I put on here just because it was a significant expense was the wrap. The wrap, everything was custom printed. We found a shop here, thanks to Tara, right up in St. George, about 15 minutes away, that could print everything for us. And that was $2,500. That actually was exactly $2,500.
But worth it.
But totally worth it because Nessie's awesome, and also the tartan is awesome. Time to add it up and give the folks a total. And then just based on the numbers, you can tell that you're not going to want to do this, and you shouldn't do this. If you wanted to get into racing, honestly, there's so many cheaper ways to do it. You know, stock class, 4,800 Legends class, you could buy a used 4,400 car for a third of the price of this car. Yeah, go for it. I'm not adding it up. I actually don't want to know. I haven't added it up, and I don't want to. I actually wish I could leave for this part here. I don't want to know. And the worst part is I know my parents are going to see this, and they're going to call me and be like, what is wrong with you? The truth is, though, Mischief Maker costs more, I'm sure, because we built it 3 times.
Ready?
It's a good one. Can't hide behind it the whole time. All right, so that's what it costs to build Nessie, roughly. I'm sure there's more costs in here. There are specialty tools that we bought, buying things for the shop, getting the shop ready, paying for the shop. This has been an interesting 2 or 3 months, actually, a very painful and interesting 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, very painful, but totally worth it.
100%. So now we have a race vehicle we can do anything we want with, and it's different. I know I've explained this before, but there's no overlap between these 2 vehicles. So we have 2 totally unique vehicles, both that she loves, and she's put her heart and soul into. And I know that there's a strong connection with this one the same way there is with Mischief Maker, just based on how she talks about it and how she oddly smiles at it when we come in the door to the garage. So I know she is happy with it, and that's really what we were shooting for. I mean, at the end of the day, you're only ever really building these things for yourself, and as long as you have something that you're happy with. On a positive note, I feel like this is also a competitive 4500 car, just with how it's built and how it performs out of the box. This vehicle has had 0 shock tuning.
Yeah, nothing has been done to it. It's not being tuned, it's not being dialed in, it's nada. But that's exactly what we're going to be doing over the next couple of months, and just a bunch of seat time, which I'm very excited about.
That's honestly, and that's just materials and stuff and parts, fabrication, hours, time, the time that went into this, you know, 3 or 4 people at a time working, anywhere from 12 to 18 hours a day.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Nobody should, that's why I'm saying nobody really should build a vehicle like this. It doesn't actually make sense unless A, you can build it yourself, or build it the way that we built it with the team that supports HCF Motorsports. You know, just to get into racing, there's so much easier ways. Like,
way easier.
But if you're out to build something unique and something that you love, and there's a vision that you have, like, you know, after I didn't see what she saw in Mischief Maker, I still don't kind of see her obsession with it. I understand it, I accept it, yeah. But I learned to trust her with that one. So if she wanted, she saw the same thing with this one, so yeah. That's what we did.
Go team. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Welcome back to the channel. We're back up and running. Thank you for being so patient with me, not coming on here every day and giving us time to get ourselves back together, pretty much in a nutshell. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.